All right, good afternoon. This is Kevin Carpenter again here, volunteer for Cppcon, and today I have Bryce with us. Bryce has a talk at the convention this year, but more than that, he's program chair and has been involved in the conference for many years. So welcome, Bryce.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
So you want to give everybody a little bit of background on your C++ knowledge there?
Yeah, sure. So I got involved in C++ back in 2010, 2011. I had dropped out of college and discovered Boost and was working on Boost Spirit a bit, sending some patches in. And I was working with Hartmut Kaiser, who's one of the maintainers of Boost Spirit. And I asked him on IRC one day, hey, I need a job. And a month later, I moved down to Louisiana and was working for him at Louisiana State University at a research center there, working on the HPX parallel runtime. And I was there for a few years. And then I moved to Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. And that's when I started getting involved with the C++ Standards Committee. I had been involved with C++ Now and Cppcon before then. And at Berkeley, I continued working on HPX. I also worked on developing a number of micro benchmarks for SIMD, Intel SIMD processors. And then last year around this time, I came to NVIDIA, and I'm the maintainer for the CUDA thrust library there, which is sort of it's one of the foundational C++ libraries in our CUDA programming platform. Yeah.
I must say I prefer thrust over the rest of CUDA just because it just makes sense to me for the little bit that I get to use it. Thank you for having it.
Well, really, all the credit goes to the people who built it. My good colleague Jared Hawbrook and everybody else who's involved in that. I've just sort of inherited the mantle, and I agree with you. It's my favorite part of the CUDA stack, and it's the part that feels the most natural to me.
So you do have one talk at this conference. So you want to tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so this talk actually started as a lightning talk at C++ Now. It's called the C++ execution model. And the basic idea of the talk is I want to introduce people to some of the most fundamental concepts and ideas from the C++ abstract machine. The C++ abstract machine is the theoretical model that underpins the C++ language. And all the semantics of C++ are defined in terms of the operations happening within this abstract machine. And the abstract machine is supposed to be sort of a platform agnostic representation of a hardware and software system. And so what I want to do with this talk is I want to explain to people some of the fundamentals of the execution model of this abstract machine. Like, to answer the question, what does it mean to evaluate an expression? What does it mean to call a function? Not in terms of a particular hardware platform, but in terms of the C++ abstract machine. And so we'll talk about things like, what are threads of execution? What are execution agents? We'll talk a little bit about the C++ memory model, which is intertwined with the execution model. But really the focus of this talk will be on the execution model. How does your C++ code get executed in the abstract machine model? And what are the things that execute that code?
I really look forward to hearing that talk, because at least for me, as much as I love writing the C++, that kind of broad overview, or, even where you get into the details, it just helps me think more about how I'm writing my code. I think it helps me produce better code. So that's definitely a topic that I'm going to look forward to hearing about. But also, you've been at the conference now since the inception, so I'm sure that you've got some ideas and tips or such for people that are coming to the conference on how to get the best out of it.
Yeah, I had an attendee recently asked me for sort of suggestions for the conference. And I frequently have this happen where somebody that I know who's also going to the conference will be like, oh, what talks should I go to? Or, how do I get the best experience at a conference? And the first thing that I like tell people is have no regrets in your Cppcon experience. There's a lot of content at the conference. There's 6 tracks, there's evening sessions, there's open content, there's always something going on. You're not going to be able to go to everything. And that's okay. And that's something that you should accept, that you're not going to make it to every talk that you want to go to. Even if you have some sort of schedule, you might not do everything on your planned schedule because you met somebody in a hallway and wanted to have a chat with them about something, or you had a late lunch with a group of people talking about one of the talks you saw in the morning. And I really think that you'll get the best experience if you just sort of embrace whatever your conference experience happens to be, whatever you happen to be doing, whatever however things play out, just sort of experience it and enjoy the experience. Don't worry about going to everything. It'll exhaust you if you try to get to every single thing. If you have to take a break because it just feels overwhelming, that's perfectly fine. I mean, it is overwhelming. There's a ton of content at the conference. And the second thing I'd say is it's okay and normal to be confused at Cppcon or any C++ conference. There's often a lot of advanced material at Cppcon talks, and everybody in the audience, even the experts, may not really follow everything, or maybe struggling to understand, or maybe learning something new. And that's sort of the whole idea. We're all there to learn something new. So whatever your skill level is, as long as you care about C++, you belong at the conference, and you shouldn't feel like, oh, I don't know what's going on here. I don't understand this part of this talk, and so I don't belong at the conference, or this is too hard for me. It's hard for everybody, and so I think it's okay to be confused, and if you're something you don't understand, ask a question about it, because chances are somebody else in the room doesn't understand it either. And the last thing I say is you should be bold when you're at the conference. So if there's a question you want to ask the speaker, you should do it. Why not? If you want to go and talk to a speaker or talk to a prominent community figure or get Bjarne's autograph, just go ahead and do it. Everybody in the community is super welcoming. And even the well-known names in the community are really friendly. They'll love talking to newcomers. So if you want to chat with somebody, don't be afraid to go talk to somebody. I encourage you to go and talk to the speaker who you really got a lot out of their talk, or somebody whose blog you've read or who you follow on Twitter. It's really one of the best ways to get engaged with the conference.
That's interesting. You mentioned Bjarne with an autograph, because in 2015, I happened to pick up his hardcover book when University Bookstore was there, and he happened to be standing next to me, and that was the question I asked. So I do have an autograph copy, and I know this year they're actually setting up time to do autographs, which is excellent.
Yeah.
So, when the first thing you mentioned about dinners and hallway stuff, I will say, at least from my experience, the first couple of years I went, I was really focused on the talks. But in the later years, I found that, as much as you have the talks, it's even more important to get to the open content and to the panels and things that are afterwards. You have anything more you want to add on those?
Yeah, so open content, open content's a really great part of the conference. So open content is all of the technical content that's not part of the general program. It's not like a pre-scheduled talk. So lightning talks, panels, some talks that just, aren't the format isn't maybe the right fit for the regular program, so they did it as open content instead. Birds of a feather sessions, anything like that, is open content. And one of the nice things about open content is open content is open to the public too. So if you aren't registered for Cppcon and you happen to live in the Seattle area, you can go to an open content session. And I think open content's really great, and it's often a place where there's more interactive discussions or interactions than you'd get in a presented talk. So, a panel or a birds of a session or a working group meeting, those are all places where you can get involved and participate in the conversation. So I think it's sort of a different experience from sitting into a technical talk where the presenter presents for an hour and then there's 10 minutes of questions afterwards. So I personally really enjoy the open content sessions. The lightning talks are probably one of my favorite parts of the conference.
I was going to, you'd mentioned the fact of a lot of the talks starting out over the head, and I have to agree, just from the fact of there's many talks that I've seen that I walked away from it going, huh. But then, the benefit as well, we end up having it recorded. So there's also that ability, I get back to the office 2 months later and something kind of recalls, and you can go back and end up watching the talk and seeing it again. And I found that really helpful. On the lightning talks, just to mention, you said the particular talk you're doing now started out as a lightning talk, and anyone can still sign up and look at doing a lightning talk, can't they?
Yep, that's right. We just announced yesterday that the call for lightning talks, and we're doing something a little different this year for part of the lightning talks, where there'll be a select number of lightning talks that will the lightning talks, instead of having a fixed duration for these select set, the duration will be as long as the audience is happy. So if the audience isn't liking the talk, then it would sort of be over at 5 minutes. But if they're liking it, then it would go on a little bit. And so this is something new that we're trying. But then we have the traditional 5-minute lightning talks that we do. And the lightning talks are an excellent pathway to becoming a speaker at the conference. If you you didn't submit a talk this year because you didn't have time to prepare a full talk, or you just didn't feel like you were ready to give a full presentation in front of large room during the regular program, you should think about submitting a lightning talk. A lot of speakers in the community got started with lightning talks. They're a lot lower pressure. Obviously, you don't have to prepare as much. They're 5 minutes. So that's an afternoon or two of preparation time. And so I strongly encourage anybody who's thinking about it, go ahead and sign up now, because there's a limited number of slots and they will go quickly. But I love to see new speakers at lightning talks, because it's a great way for us to bring new people into the community.
Yeah, that's excellent. That was where I did my first one, was lightning talk, and it was definitely fun. It's an experience getting up there and actually presenting one. Before we move on, one other thing I want to ask you about is this year, it seems like there's a lot more classes. Is this one of the biggest years that we've had for classes, pre and post?
I believe that's correct. I think every year that we've had classes, we've had continuing growth in classes. So yeah, we have classes both before the conference, the weekend before and the weekend after. We have a great slate of instructors this year. Every year I go and spend some time sitting in each one of the classes. I try to spend at least 30 minutes in each class just to get a feel for it. And I'm always impressed by the quality of the content, and by the degree, like how engaged the audience is, which is always nice to see. And the classes are not sold out this year. They don't frequently completely sell out. So if you're interested in taking a class, and you can still register for one. So it's something to think about.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to let us go with that. I wanted to say I really appreciate you giving me the time this afternoon. You know, that idea of being involved in the conference was why I volunteered this year, just because it's going to get that much closer and that much enjoyable. So I'm counting down. We have what I think, well, I'm flying out next Friday and I can't wait. So I look forward to seeing you at the conference in Bellevue.
Yep, I will see you there.
Thanks, Bryce.
All right.